Hey folks, welcome to Food for Action. We're back. So I again um, am hoping um, to have this be an outlet or an inlet for folks to get involved in the conversation of racism, um, racial struggles, racial equality um, in this country of ours. I have gotten a million messages. I think it's pretty neat, but it's a lot of work finding out. It's a lot of work to make sure that I'm doing the proper amount of research, um, trying to check views from every angle possible, and to make sure that I don't leave anybody's voice out. Um, Penetrating my ears and eyes, that I don't just research from one angle or another, but that I research as many angles that are presented to me in the forms of your questions or comments, things that you share with me. I want to say that today um, I spent a bunch of time literally just reading down my, I think it's called the news feed, or, that thing that is on Facebook, and just reading the different things that people are posting. Um, Somehow or another, I have 5,000 friends on Facebook or something close to it, and I have been, like I said, today, and not that I haven't done it before, but today has been like a really big day of me um, just reading what people are posting. I'm finding out a lot of things about people that probably, if it wasn't for the horrible state of affairs in this country at this point, I probably never would know, because people have, just as I have this newfound desire to want to express um, their viewpoints. Or, as I was saying to my Smunchkin earlier, is that sometimes people are just regurgitating things that they hear, and you can tell that because of the terminology that they use. Um, Copying the names that one group of people is calling another group of people, especially from the political angle. And I, I, I wonder how um, how much are people literally trying to, on a daily basis, um, are people trying to refresh their own minds so that they actually are having original thoughts and original questions and original ideas, instead of just the ideas of others. And that doesn't mean that you can't share a post from somebody or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the outright, if there's such thing as plagiarism of Facebook. Um, but it literally are a bunch of people that are on Facebook nowadays, and they literally are just, for some reason, um, not putting any thought into the things that they type, and and I wonder how people come to grips with being that way, especially people that have families, children, and that blows my mind when I read some things, and and then you have to literally face your children after saying some of the, and I have to say it this way, but some of the asinine things that people are saying, and it bothers me, and but I think a lot of times it's obviously not bothering the people who typed those things, and and another thing I think that's very distressing to me is that, knowing the full capabilities of social media, understanding that that, or maybe some people don't understand that that a lot of people are seeing the things that you're saying and realizing who you really are now, or realizing that you really don't know who you are. You're just literally following the leader with no um, true self identity, which is pretty sad in these times because there's so much going on, so many unfair, negative things, and the fact that um, that people are having literally no real opinion, so they have to just repeat or mimic another person's hateful speak. I just find that distressing. So, but I spent a lot of time today, literally, um, going through some of those things, and I think at some point soon, I think I'm going to start sharing some of those things. I mean, they're posting on Facebook and they're coming through on my feed, so I'm going to assume that that allows me, since I'm allowed to read that, I'm allowed. I should probably start maybe taking some screenshots of this stuff, so that I want to know what everybody thinks about some of the things that I've been reading. But that's not going to happen today. It'll happen soon. I do want to. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today is something that I don't know how many people know about this, um, but I watch a lot of sports TV, and you know that there was the whole Colin Kaepernick take a knee, and actually first it wasn't taking a knee, but then after him speaking to a veteran, he the veteran suggested that he take a knee. That would be respectful and appropriate. Although some people try to make it sound like something else. So, but I'm not going to spend time calling names or anything like that. But the point is that the whole kneel um, uh, when the flag and the quote unquote national anthem. Uh, so things went through my mind. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm a little bit what's the word, juggling some thoughts because a lot has passed through my brain today. But I do want to talk about the national anthem. Um, and I want to read a stanza from the national anthem because I think a lot of people may not be aware that this national anthem wasn't created with everybody in mind. We think we're uh, told since kids that this is our anthem. So let me um, show you, and I posted it on Facebook earlier and Instagram. But I thought that I don't know if you can see this, but it's my phone, and and I posted this, which is an actual copy of the manuscript in the writing of Francis Scott Key, and he was a slave owner who treated his slaves very harshly, um, and I guess every slave owner, for the most part, that's kind of what the treatment was. It's not a popular thing to say. I know that when I was in elementary school and you broached the subject of slaves, teachers and books used to make it sound like there was some, slaves were kind of like family. That's not correct. And anybody um, who tells you that slaves were treated great, and yeah, that if you believe that, boy, I got some property I want to sell you. But anyways, so this Star Spangled Banner, the third stanza of the Star Spangled Banner says, "And where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle's confusion, a home and a country should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." If you didn't get that, the key line from there is uh, um, the no refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. In other words, talking about killing slaves, that they won't be saved or their lives shan't be spared in any way, shape, or form. So, and this was part of the national anthem. This is part of that thing that we are taught that we should respect and stand up and put our hands over our hearts. I'm not sure how um, that is justified, and I wonder how many people know that that was part of the Star Spangled Banner, and that that somehow became um, our national anthem. Uh, it doesn't reflect any love towards black people or excuse me or former slaves or anybody that has come down, from generation to generation. I don't know how that reflects me. I don't know how it reflects my daughter. I don't know how that reflects any black folk that I know, any brown folk that I know. I have no clue um, how we have been tricked or brainwashed or how that became. I don't, it confuses me, and especially when I know that those are the lyrics to that song. That is part of that song, is literally talking about basically making slaves, or black or brown people, making them a worthless piece of property that if you fight back against that treatment, or then you basically you're not going to be saved from being ravaged and murdered, and it's insane that nobody talks about that. Why didn't we learn that in elementary school? Why didn't we learn that? Instead of glorifying uh, the this guy that wrote this, um, why didn't we learn that that actually is a hateful song? It's not, and that it's not hidden. It's in your face, and I know I've watched, as I've been talking about this, I've watched a lot of people get off of this stream, and so I hope that if you did, or if you hadn't been in the first place, I hope that you will go back and double check that. And again, I posted it on my Facebook today, so you definitely can see that, or you can look it up on your own at the Library of Congress, or you can, it's not hidden. It is easy to find this on your own, to see that I'm not making this up. I'm not regurgitating anything. These are literally the lyrics to that song. I have the typed version, um, and of the manuscript, and I also have the copy of the original writing in Francis Scott Key's handwriting. So I just thought that people should take some time out to find out on your own, find out the true meaning behind the national anthem, and understand that again, he was a slave owner who was known to treat his slaves more harshly than some, and he um, made straightforward reference to the fact of killing slaves um, uh, in the so-called national anthem. So that's that subject. And hi, Mandy. Um, oh yeah, yeah. I've been talking about and showing the national anthem, and how the third stanza in the national anthem talks about murdering slaves, and that the writer Francis Scott Key was himself a slave owner who treated his slaves apparently far worse than some people treated their slaves, which, you know, I mean, all in all, slavery was horrible, uh, period. It separated families. It was very violent. Um, but but I just wanted everybody to see that, and I invite people to please search out the this, and again, if you need it from me, I have no problem sending you a copy, or that's fine too. So let's see. um, so I also wanted to talk about the subject of defunding the police, uh, which I'm sure. So this is topic number two that is going to make everybody not want to be on here anymore, and that's part of life. We got to have these discussions. So I just wanted to be clear first that when people are talking about defunding the police, they are not talking about, as some people say on certain news networks and certain politicians say, that somebody is saying to get rid of the police. That is not what anybody is saying. What we are saying is that there are some very inflated budgets within lots of police departments in lots of towns, cities, states. There's lots of funds that probably would do better helping different parts of the community, funding for schools, funding for mental health counselors, funding for social workers, medical professionals, education, and so on. Uh, Maybe some of that money would do a lot better going to some of those things to show support for um, economically burdened and quote unquote less than neighborhoods that don't have proper funding to begin with. That it might just be good enough to do that, and also have more money to go towards training proper police officers, so that you can weed out those police officers that are bad, or those police officers that are everyone amok, like what we've seen and heard of a lot lately. And again, I am not saying that, even personally, I'm not saying that all police are bad, and I'm not saying that all police are violent, and I'm not saying that all police are racist, and I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying, though, is that we need to have a 100% out in the open way of screening, and making sure that we weed whatever the bad from the good. It needs to be done so that there aren't any more deaths, and so that there aren't any more videos caught from the cars of police officers where they are talking about killing black people, and when they're on break sitting in their car, and that gets recorded and we get to hear it and see it, and so I'm sure that anybody, if they're being honest, knows that there are certain things that have to be. I mean, just as in any other kind of job, if you know that you have some bad seeds, you have to weed those things out so that it doesn't taint the whole organization. And police shouldn't be any different. If there's bad seeds, you got to get rid of them, and then you have to make sure that other people are properly trained so that those things um, those things don't keep rearing their ugly heads. So again, to reiterate, nobody is saying, when they talk about defund the police, they're not talking about tearing down and abolishing and getting rid of police officers. And no, we're talking about moving and allocating some of the funds to different um, 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 structures to be able to train properly and to weed out the bad seeds. But we're also talking about being able to throw more money back into those less served communities, um, so that into housing and social work and schooling and so on. So that is what it is about. So I hope at some point the people that are trying to portray things that we say, and they try to put their own little spin on it so that it is comfy for them. I hope that will come to a close sooner than later, because it's not helping anyone. So let's see. So those are the two crazy subjects for the day, and anybody who is still here, I hope I hope I didn't just scare you away, um, and I hope that I, may have opened your eyes to something like that. That would be the point. Um, let's see. So, um, oh, cool. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So, let's see. There are a few things that I wanted to talk about again, because I keep on seeing these things um, over and over again on all news stations, and so I just wanted to. I want. Actually, I just want. I implore everybody to please take some time and look at other do what I'm doing. Don't just look at Fox, don't just look at CNN, but take some time and shuffle around. Use the remote control. It's a great invention, and go to different stations, and then pick up your tablets or your you know computers, phones, and look at at other um, other portrayals of the same message, because that's the only way you're going to find out what is real, and then uh, and things that are being twisted and turned and flipped, and at some point we have to be willing to to accept truth. We have to be willing to call the old expression, to call a spade a spade. Got to be willing to do it. If you're not willing to face something head on just because it doesn't agree with the way you were brought up, or it doesn't agree with your opinion at this point, or because it doesn't make you feel all warm and smushy inside, um, then I fear that you're going to have um, worse a worse and worse time in this country as certain things get corrected and fixed. But let's see. Mandy says, "Do you think this should be a community effort, though, or just from the police departments?" So that's a good question. I think in turn, what that's kind of what defunding the police is asking for. It's not only the things that I mentioned about how to shift some money around so that it can properly serve lower or inner cities. It, and but it is an on taking of everybody. Let's see. So there's an organization that makes millions in my town for 1 week of the year. However, now they are buying up a ton of property to take revenue from others. Uh, oh, that. So I think, Mandy, I think that's kind of a little bit different, because, like, for example, okay, I live near Cleveland, Youngstown, and there is an organization there that literally raised money to spruce up a neighborhood, um, and because there's like 2-3 blocks of houses that are immaculate, that have and then there's this more rundown houses a couple streets over, and so somebody finally niced up the areas. They used to be a little bit ignored because it was a more black and brown populated area, urban, so on, and so they ignored those streets, and then somebody kind of did the whole some fundraising and so on, and then and they um, they literally spent all the money on putting some parks for kids and all kind of stuff like that. Um, so but that's just one aspect of it, because I'm talking about, and most people that are speaking of defunding the police, we're talking about literally the structure, the system, as well, has to be addressed, as far as um, like I said, school funding, social work. There's a mindset when you grow up in an urban part of the city, just as I'm sure that there's a mindset when you live, in the hills in this $1 million mansions. Um, if you grow up that way, you have this mindset, and it's troubling in the urban city areas because it's harder to break out of that when you grow up and everything looks like the nice things are closed off to you, and it looks like and, all you can do is get a job at McDonald's, and so you don't see a way to to do anything bigger, and so maybe you turn to some not so good things to do, and so on, so it's kind of it's this cycle, and what we're saying is, hey, let's take some of that overspending money that's sitting in one arena and let's move it over to this arena so that we can build up these cities, give the same technology and the same access to an urban area so that people can do what we want. A lot of people think that people in urban areas, and I've heard, and I hate to say it, but I've heard Trump literally talk about how people in the urban cities, they don't want to work, they want to live off the welfare and so on. And are there people that do that, white and black and whatever other color in the universe? Absolutely, there are some people that do that, but that's not the majority of folks in urban city. Please don't anybody ever get it twisted and think that we just people just want to be a product of that and never get out of that and don't want to work, and that's not what's going on. Matter of fact, one of the scariest things that I've watched happen over the past few years is how people talk about the job uh, growth, and they talk about, oh my gosh, there's more black and brown folks employed before the pandemic happened. But did anybody ever stop to wonder, when you say employed, are you talking about employed at McDonald's? Because yes, a lot of people get jobs, but those jobs don't pay for you to go to school, pay for you to raise your kids. No, they're just jobs that might put enough food on the table, that might give you bus fare, that might you know allow you to buy a pack of gum for your kids, or maybe one Chuck E. Cheese a year or something like that. So don't when you talk about the job numbers, let's talk about the quality of the jobs. Now, let's have that conversation. Then we can say if things moved ahead. But don't just say we're counting that so more people are employed. Yeah, but gainfully employed, or just they are filling out a whatever tax form because they're working at McDonald's or at the car wash. I used to do that, but you know what I mean. So let's talk about that part of employment numbers. Let's talk about that part, because just to say that everybody is clocking in somewhere doesn't mean that we've solved the economic part of having jobs. Most people do want to work. And so, because you do want to work, then you get whatever job you can to help your family. That doesn't mean it's the job that's going to get you out of this and to the next level. It means that you can pay your light bill, hopefully, or at least pay some of it, and then get some of it to spill over, and whatever, so on and so forth. So you might be able to keep your utilities on. That's not, that's not really having a job, having a career. So let's talk about evening that playing field. And again, that's what some of this funding would do. It would be able to be shared, with job careers outlets and so on, to help move people up to where we can compete for real jobs. So, um, um, so Mandy, for what you're saying, I'd love to find out more about that, and I'm gonna call you, so we're going to wrap because I want you to come on and do this thing with me on either this coming Sunday or the next Sunday. But I definitely want to know more about the specific organization that you're talking about. So that would be cool. Um, so yeah, so that is all of that for now. Um, I want to say again a shout out to my Smunchkin who joined me last week. Excuse me, Sunday, and she was awesome. It was just awesome to have her on here, giving a different take on the whole racism thing, and seeing, how her mind adjusted growing up um, with me as a dad and her mom and so on. So that was really neat, listening to her do that. So awesomeness. Again, I want to thank everybody who does turn in, and or who does look later, because that's also another avenue that you have, is that I post these things on Facebook and YouTube um, and parts to Instagram and so on. So I just want everybody to have a chance to do this food for thought, food for action thing, where we actually talk about stuff and we keep talking about things, so that we can have less of a barrier between us as people. And I think it's really important that especially at these times, that now um, all of America comes to understand what Black and Brown America has endured in this country. It's very important, because, and we see that now with, all of the protesting, and um, and it's encouraging in one respect, but we got to get everybody's minds adjusted to want to know and to be part of the solution, so that there can really be equality in this country for every human being. And you can't achieve that until we acknowledge as a whole what the shortcomings of this country are, what the shortcomings of a people are. We have to know that. And until you acknowledge a problem, then there's no way to cure a problem. Until you acknowledge a problem, then there's no way to even pose the right questions. And so, even I know me, and I know some other folks who do this too, and I know I repeat a lot of stuff, and that's because um, even after these things, I get messages with people that still, want to know more. Or I get messages about people who think that everything that I say is bold-faced lies and other things, nasty things that have been said to me. But that's okay, because at least they're to some degree listening. And what I do at that point is I ask those people, if you feel that what I am saying is untrue, then I would invite you to tell me what the truth is. Then, if you don't believe that there is systemic racism in this country, then I would like you to tell me what is going on. I would like you to explain the breakdown between black folk and brown folk and white America. I would like you to explain to me um, why some of the top, Fortune 500s and 400s companies, why there's only 13 people in the hierarchy, the top, sitting at the top of these companies, out of the hundreds and hundreds of companies that there are, and why those avenues are not available. Um, um, I would like you to tell me why education is not as good, and the outlets to educational things such as computers, such as up-to-date textbooks, and so on. I want you to tell me why those things aren't available uh, to urban communities. Let me know. Trust me. I am not sitting here wanting to be right. What I am sitting here is I'm wanting to know. If you have something you can teach me, teach it. I want to know. It's good. That's what it's all about. It's about everybody having an open mind, an open heart, open ears, and to come together in thought, you know, and really understand um, what is going on in front of our faces, in front of our eyes. We have a lot of people in this country today that literally will punch you in the eye, and then 2 seconds later say, "I didn't punch you in the eye," and people believe it. So it's very weird state of affairs in this country right now, and and all that does is this current status. What it does is it muffles up and it mucks up people's understanding of how things got this way. And so it is my what I believe privilege to have a yearning inside to want to help bridge that communicational gap, bridge that understanding gap, and help people um, hopefully see things from another light where they might not have seen it earlier. I also, by the way, want to thank all the young folks who have written, sent me messages. Man, I think that's the best part of all of this. Even if the some of the questions are based off of some things that they've heard that aren't so true, but the fact that they're engaging is really awesome, and I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate that from everybody. You know, for anybody to take the time to join the conversation. That means with me or anybody else that you join the conversation with, and you truly are having a open conversation about the downfalls that are going on. It's the only way that we're going to find out how to pick each other up and how to make the corrections that are needed to be made. So before I get off of here, I do want to remind you again that if you want to see the copy, I did post it earlier. If anybody needs to wants to have a copy from me sent whatever, I'll do that too. My phone number is on here, and of course you can message me. But to have the copy of the Star Spangled Banner so that you can see who it was written by and you can see the content of the Star Spangled Banner, our quote unquote our national anthem. It is time that people take the blinders off of that and understand what that song really was and who it was for, and and the cruelty to a part of that song, um, a hate to part of that song, and so I have those lyrics, or you can find them on your own. It's not hard to do. You just Google, Francis Scott Key, or Google the Star Spangled Banner, and then look at the third stanza, and you will see the hate from that song. So, um, you know, how did that song become um, uh, where it's supposed to be standing for everybody here in America? Who knows? The fact that they stopped uh, using that as far as when people sing it and stand somewhere and whatever. To me, I'm one that believes that because it was part of that song, because he was a slave owner who was known to have treated his slaves significantly worse than other people, which I don't even know how to put my head around that because slaves weren't treated good at all, period. So, so that he was known to treat his slaves worse than lots of other folks, and then he wrote that song, which has a full stanza of hatred in it for black people, for slaves. Then that tells me that people need to put an asterisk on that song at least, and that people need to know. We have a deficiency in our educational system. I know that it is this way since I was a kid, and since my pops was a kid, and my mom was a kid, and and a lot of that deficiency is still there, where we are not learning true facts about the history of America and what we've come to be, and so we are growing up, thinking that slaves and were treated like family. It's just no such thing, and so was there an exception here or there? Probably, but was that the case for the most part? No, that was not. The slaves were slaves, and slaves were treated poorly, and and so, but my point is so please look up the national anthem, Star Spangled Banner, and please see for yourself, um, and and then do some research on the defunding topic, because um, you know it's time that people stop saying that when people yell out to defund the police, that for some reason somebody is taking this message hostage and turned it into a somebody is telling us or is trying to say that we need to abolish all police forces and all that. That's not what's happening. We're talking about moving funds to productive around in productive ways to help the struggling communities, underserved communities, and 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 also training of police departments and the weeding out of the bad element, um, so that police can be trusted, and so that it can take all that negative out of the way. So, anyways, so please look into those things. Until the next time, which will be Sunday. Um, Please, everybody keep the conversation going. And Amanda, thank you. I will call you. And let's see. And then uh, if you have anything that you need to say to me, good, bad, or otherwise, please feel free to call or write, and we can get that conversation going too. All right. So until the next time, everybody, love, man. It's about some love, and together, uh, through communication, we can fix some of these things that are going wrong. So let's do it together. All right. I'll see you Sunday at 7 p.m. Same black time, same black channel.